I think living a good life is about discovering and developing your gifts to the best of your ability and then giving them back, finding what it is that you have uniquely to offer the world. And I think sometimes artists and athletes feel a little guilty or selfish for spending time and effort, even money, developing these gifts. But what is it they're ultimately doing? If they are an athlete or an artist, there is a moment when you give that gift back, either in performance or, as a writer in delayed performance.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reflections on Living Well podcast, where we explore perspectives on the good life in the 21st century. I am your host, Broderick. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reflections on Living Well podcast. Today, our guest is Mary Volmer. I'm excited to have this conversation with Mary. I met Mary through another guest here on this podcast. And Mary is an athlete. She's a writer. And I'll just say just that. I'll let Mary introduce herself. How are you doing, Mary, by the way, before you introduce yourself?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. I feel like I haven't interviewed someone in a few weeks now, and I'm excited to be back at it here. Had some technical difficulties earlier with someone else, but hopefully this works out, and we have a nice, fun conversation exploring this important topic of what it means to live well. But yeah, can you introduce yourself? Say a little bit more about yourself, whatever you like, and then we'll jump into the question.
Yeah, my name is Mary. I played basketball in college years and years ago. I won't tell you how many years ago, and left the game and engaged in something equally ridiculous, which was writing novels, and thought I was leaving the game behind, thought I was embarking on my adult life, but the desire to play and the fascination with sport, especially with basketball, followed me for years. And after teaching at the college level for 15, 20 years, I began working with artists and athletes as a spiritual director. I was working on the spiritual undertones of their work and how their gifts were being developed and how they were being called to use their gifts in a productive way. I struggled in my 30s with this work ethic mentality. I mean, I knew I could outwork everyone, but there was another aspect that I had been missing, and that was the surrender of the endeavor so that you can play. As an athlete, I would always outwork everyone, but there was a certain hesitancy and a certain paralysis that would come over me at times because I wanted to play so well, so much that I couldn't just surrender to the moment, to the present moment and play. And so in my 30s and 40s, when I was starting to work with artists and athletes like myself who were experiencing this kind of paralysis, I realized there are ways, just as there are ways of working on a jump shot, just as there are ways of learning how to craft and to outline a story, to learn how to play again, learn how to surrender again. So I took a job as the chaplain for athletics at St. Mary's College of California. The title is Mission Fellow for Athletics. And in that position, I am a spiritual director for athletes, coaches and staff, and that is NCAA and club. So hundreds. I don't see all 100, but and the process that we go through most often is going from the work ethic to joyful effort, going from a motivation that's based in a fear of losing to a joyful discovery of the full extent of your gifts. And that has made my process, both as an artist and as an athlete and as a coach, much more joyful.
Wow, Mary, I love it. I love it. I want to just talk about all of this. Let's see. I'm assuming that a
Let's do
lot of
it.
that will
Yeah,
come up throughout this conversation. But I'm
sure.
fascinated by that, by your story there, and see this, see, audience. This is why I don't read bios anymore because a bio could never do what you just did there. I think I'm wanting more. I want more of Mary. I want to know more about your story and what it is that you're doing, and it sounds very exciting. I think it's important what you're doing. As athletes, a lot of times we get so caught up into the competition of it, a competition of winning, that we lose sight of the spiritual dimension of athleticism and how powerful that is. And
Yeah,
it's really nice to hear that you're doing that for young folks at St. Mary's there, and for people in general. It's good to know that they have that they are getting some attention towards this dimension of what it means to be an athlete, because as we all know, I played football in school, and an injury pretty much nipped that in the bud. I could have played more, but I was like, I don't know if it's worth it to go further,
yeah,
particularly if I can pursue my dreams through academics. Kind of let go of that, but that was painful. It was quite a painful thing. I thought that
yeah,
was going to be a thing that I was going to continue to do, play sport, play football, and competitively, and to have that cut short was hard. But I
yeah,
slowly but surely over years let it go. It took a while to finally let it go.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
there's aspects
have
of that athlete self that will always be with you,
Oh yeah, exactly. I was about to
that
say
will follow you and
exactly,
serve you.
exactly, and I think it has
Yeah,
always, and I think that gets left out, because we can enjoy the competition of it all, but all of us are not going to play professional sports, but the traits, the characteristics of being an athlete will always be with us, and to translate that into something deeply spiritual, I think is important. I know it has for me. The things I learned from playing sports and being an athlete. I'm still an athlete now. With capoeira. This Brazilian dance martial art that I do, that
yeah.
I do quite intensely still. At 51 years old, I'm still pretty
I'd
fully
love to see you
engaged.
do that sometime.
I don't know if you want to see me doing it. I don't know
Well,
how
I think,
I look doing it. I'm just playing.
oh, it'd be great. I would love to watch. Well, and I think we underestimate the spiritual nature of sport.
Right?
We think about the monastic nature of high level sports training. You're getting up at a certain time. You're
Mm-hmm.
attending your diet. You're attending to your cohort of people who are similarly devoted. You have times of day when you are scheduled for everything. Think about the monks getting
Mm-hmm.
up for vespers at a certain time and doing this at a certain time and doing this at a certain time. And sports is full of ritual and ceremony that we take for
Mm-hmm.
granted. And I think now that there is less of that kind of orchestrated ceremony in our lives through organized religion, young people, yes, they're getting healthy and yes, they're having a good time, but they're also probably enjoying some of that spiritual nutrition, spiritual nurturing too through sport because there's
Yep.
not as many places to find that now.
Exactly. And it's great to have someone like yourself um, articulating and sharing that perspective, because a lot of athletes don't get that perspective. It's all about the competition, and it's very, you're right, it's very monk-like. It's very every game is a ritual. Every practice is a ritual, really.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to have someone, and it's great that St. Mary's is doing this too, to have someone bring in this other dimension of what it means to be an athlete, to engage in sport, and what it can do to nurture our souls, our spirit in a particular way. That's great. It's just awesome.
Well, and
Well, we can
athletes I
go
speak
ahead.
to, and I remember too, this feeling of transcendence, the flow state. Mihai
Mm-hmm.
Csikszentmihalyi, who's a psychologist, talks about states of optimal performance where time seems to
Mm-hmm.
slow down and the basket gets bigger, and most athletes at this level, Division I level that I talk to, they have had a taste of that transcendence. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever their larger goals is, their everyday goal is to just touch that a little bit every
Mm-hmm.
day. And they'll go through a tremendous amount of drudgery and work for the opportunity to be in that transcendent space, whether they're runners, the runner's high, or a basketball player, or it doesn't matter. It seems to accompany every sport. I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
golf. I'm guessing golf. I haven't talked to enough golfers to know
Yeah, that'd be
whether
interesting to.
whether that state of euphoria.
Yeah, I'm sure with that level of focus, probably in some way, some capacity, a little bit different than the more physically demanding, intense sports. But yeah, this is great. I think that, so audience, we're not detouring too much here. I think this is an important part of what it means to live a good life. And let's jump into that question. So, what does it mean to live a good life, to live well, or what makes life worth living? You can tackle those questions however you want. They all as one. I look at questions as a way of pointing you in a direction, and seeing how you're going to respond to
Hmm.
those questions that are pointing you, or yeah, encourage you or nudging you to think about something.
Yeah. I think living a good life is it's about discovering and developing your gifts to the best of your ability and then giving them back. Finding what it
Mm.
is that you have uniquely to offer the world. And I think sometimes artists and athletes feel a little guilty or selfish for spending time and effort, even money, developing these gifts. But what is it they're ultimately doing? If they are an athlete or an artist, there is a moment when you give that gift back, either in performance or, as a writer in delayed performance. So there is a selflessness to that strict kind of discipline that you go through. And I love that. I love the effort. I love when the moment between, like, just the grind turns to joyful effort. That's what I think that good life is. And there is a balance. I have had a hard time in my life figuring out what that balance is, because I like to work. I like the effort. Um, and it's hard to know how to integrate rest and how to integrate leisure into a life. And I thought for a long time that the work had to be this, and leisure had to be that. And it's becoming increasingly clear to me that what I do is also what I love. And so that balance is becoming easier to find. It's not as much of a struggle. It's not an either or. I'm either working or I'm enjoying something. Oftentimes I'm enjoying what I'm working on, and that is a privilege. I understand. And it's also a choice too. I think one of the aspects that's changed my life in the last 10 years, and also changes my athletes' lives in a positive direction, is moving from duty to wonder. And the
Mm.
example I could give about this is, so I had a athlete come in about 5 years ago who his jump shot, it wasn't hitting his jump shot. He's a great shooter. He's not hitting his jump shot. He's in a slump, and he's just beating himself up. And so he's going in after practice and shooting 300 shots, just rep after rep after rep. And if he doesn't get 7 out of 10, well, he's going to do another set until he gets, so he's beating himself up. He's trying to work himself through this. And so we decided one day that instead of saying, I have to make 7 out of 10, he's going to say, I wonder, I wonder if I can make 7 out of 10. And so he took that wonder into that rep, and he didn't make 7 out of 10. But instead of saying, damn it, you son of a bitch, you didn't make, he just said, I wonder if I can do it the next time. And that first time back, it took him as many reps, as many different sets to get the 7 out of 10 as it did before. But his whole mindset, his whole bearing changed in the process of doing that. And
Mm.
and the next day, then, it wasn't a labor. He brought wonder to the process the next day, and joy was a result of that. It wasn't a have to. It wasn't a labor. It wasn't, you son of a bitch, you should have. it's always, wow, I wonder if I can. And then
Mm,
I wonder if I can. So instead of dutiful devotion, it became a process of discovery.
mm,
And that his transformation allowed me to to kind of take that into my own artistic and athletic life. And I wonder if I can tell this story. I wonder, not you
mm,
have to, or those
mm,
kinds of dictatorial messages we send ourselves. And as athletes, of course, the tough love of coaching, we're used to that. We're used to that my way or the highway kind of coaching. And sometimes you have to treat yourself with a bit more kindness and generosity in order to, get the best out of yourself in the long term, not just in the season.
mm.
I have no idea what your question was. I'm just talking now.
I love it. I love it. There's so much in there. I love it. I think you answered a lot of it. You did answer the question, by the way, but you just you brought up a lot of themes that I think are important. Just right from the beginning, I just love that. I think that's important as well, is to find our gifts, and whatever that gift is an offering to the world. And I love that. Can you say a little bit more about a person's gift, their talent, and how do you find such a thing?
Hmm. It doesn't have to be big. That's one of the or impressive to
Mm,
be a real gift in the world. There's a story of Brother Lawrence. I think he's a French. He was a French brother who was known and is known as a spiritual mystic. And you think, oh well, he must have had some very important job within the monastery. No, he was the cook. He was
mm-hmm,
washing dishes, preparing food, and yet there was a wisdom that accompanied him that was independent of the specific task that he carried out every day. Yet there was something about that task too that made him approachable, that made people feel comfortable going to him. I think about my experience on the basketball court. I was always the second string point guard. There's a line in a Pat Conroy book, My Losing Season, and I think it's something like, I was meant to be a point guard, but not a very good one. and, and I was always, second string on a very good D1 team, but second string nonetheless. And it took me a long time to recognize that, as athletic as I was and as gifted as I was as an athlete, my real gift was getting everybody else going.
mm,
Noticing when someone needed another word, noticing the kind of the barometer, what the feel of the team was, and having the language to translate what we were feeling into something coach could hear, and vice versa. So it wasn't the glamorous gift that I wanted, right? I wanted to be on the court. I wanted to be in the box score after the game with impressive numbers, but I probably had as many DNPs, did not plays, in my first 2 years as I had points. So,
mm,
and that took a long time to recognize that time on the bench was allowing me, in fact, making me develop other gifts that I otherwise maybe I wouldn't have
mm,
discovered. And writing was one of those. I
mm,
started writing when I was frustrated on the bench and needed an
mm,
outlet for that emotion.
mm-hmm. I love it. I think, I asked that question because of what you just said, basically, that a gift doesn't have to be this phenomenal thing, at least from the outside world. This thing that we've been told that, oh, you need to, and, you need to cultivate a particular gift so you can
Right,
acquire a certain level of social status and wealth and all that kind of, which is basically related to social status, social capital rather,
right.
and no, it's not that. A gift is, like you're saying, being able to rally and bring people together. Isn't that what a point guard does anyway? Even if you're on, quote unquote, on
It
the bench
is.
or
Yeah,
starting, you're rallying the team
yeah.
together and bringing people together. And I think recognizing that we all have gifts, we all have a talent, It doesn't need to be. You don't need to be. Okay, I'll just use your example. You don't need to be the first string point guard to bring your gift, your talent to the world, or you can still be a point guard, and that can be a talent, a gift that you have. But there are other aspects of what that means, and when you are pursuing your talent, your gift, other aspects of what you have to offer the world come to life, like writing, or rallying and bringing
Yes.
people together.
Yeah.
And those things are going to have an impact on the world as a result. And, I think I
Hmm.
completely agree with you that, yes, not only but not only does it behoove me to cultivate my gifts, my talent, but to think about what impact will that gift and talent have on the world, and how that um, plays out in a life well lived. Can you say, I have my thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
that, but I would love
Mm-hmm.
to hear how you unpack that a little bit. Why can't I just find my gift and it be all about me enjoying myself? I don't know, doing my thing that I'm very talented at. Why it has to be like
Hmm.
other people and serving other people and bringing my gift to the world? Why is that necessary for me to have a good life?
Oh, it's a good question. I think we become in relation to others. We actually become in relation to others. Like who am I alone in the woods? I have a relationship to things around me, but until I interact, until I understand what I have to offer you, what we're gaining together, neither of our gifts are fully realized. There has to be some sort of it's almost as though two people with two gifts come into a room and together they share their gifts, and this third thing emerges, this third thing
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful and never otherwise would have manifested itself without the interaction of these two people or with an entire team. And that's the magic of gifts. It's not that you own it and you have it and you cultivate it and you grow it and you eat it. It's that it nurtures, and it's much bigger and less predictable
Mm-hmm.
when you add different variables to that equation.
Mm-hmm.
I also think there's something that the Lasallians, St. Mary's is a Lasallian Christian Brothers school, and they talk about the deep gift. Diana Ackerman also has written a book about deep play and deep gifts, and I think, if I'm understanding this right, that the deep gift has different manifestations throughout your life depending on what you're doing and who you meet. So, had I been born 10 years later, I would have been a soccer player probably. My build and my
Mm-hmm.
abilities, I would have played soccer. So, whatever deep athletic gift I had manifested at this moment in time in this way because that was the opportunity that presented itself. But that's not necessarily, basketball isn't the gift. It's a
Mm.
manifestation of a deeper gift. And so when I
Yeah.
talk to my athletes, baseball players or whatever it is they're doing, remember that this is just part of a deep gift, and that you're living this moment out as well as you can to develop this gift, because it's going to come out and you're going to need it in a different way later on, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
writing novels or teaching classes or taking a sidestep and becoming a sports minister. You don't know until you surrender to your notion of who and what you are so that you can
Mm-hmm.
discover that. Very similar to
Mm-hmm.
the shooter, right? I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
wonder. It's a really a
Mm-hmm.
powerful, freeing way of living into rather than living up to, who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah, you dove a little bit deeper into this idea of deep gift, and that the superficial expression or manifestation of our talent, our gift, is not the gift itself. That's just a material expression, which has value and importance, of course, because it's going to reflect things in our
Sure.
temperament. It's going to reflect the time and era that we came into this world in, all of that stuff. But there's something deeper and richer there that is trying to express itself through us. that we bring to the world that's
Hmm.
unique to us. Because we're all the way I look at it, we're all an expression of the divine. We're all an expression of reality, whatever, however you want to name
Hmm.
it, God, whatever word you want to use. We all are an expression of that thing, of the suchness that the world is. We're all that expression, so we're living in a relational field just automatically. And so I
Hmm.
feel like when we are tapped into that deep gift and we tap deep into ourselves, we're tapping into the, I look at like we get one analogy is like the ocean, and you have waves, and each one of us are waves on the ocean. And when we tap into our deep gift, we're tapping into down into the waters, and in the waters we're connected with all other beings. um we already
Right.
are, but we tap into something deeper than what's superficial, than how we manifest ourselves in the world. And when we find that richness that we have to offer the world, we can recognize that it's not just about me. It doesn't even make sense in a relational field.
Hmm.
I almost have a responsibility to come to realization of my deep gift, my talent, what I have to bring to the world. Because no matter if I'm thinking about that, am I bringing something to the world? I may not think about it that way, but we are. We're automatically bringing something
Hmm.
into the world through our existence. It's just a matter of taking responsibility for what it
Yeah.
is that we're bringing to the world. And when we bring our gift, our talent, we have something uniquely special to bring to the table in service to the whole, not just for ourselves. That's the way I look at it. Like
Right.
and it's just a matter of, for me, recognizing that, coming to that realization that, oh, I am an expression of all things, just like everybody else. And it's just quote unquote one. This may
Hmm.
not the best way of just saying it, but this essence, this one unity that's all things, that we all are an expression of. And if when I have that realization, not only I know, like, oh, it is really important for me to find my gift. It is really important for me to bring my
Hmm.
gifts to the table, because I am going to have an impact on the world. There is something about me that I
Yeah.
can bring that supports this notion that we are all an expression of spirit, the way I look at it. And how do I
Yeah.
really nurture and support that gift and talent? And it may be through sport, it may be through, like, you writing, it may be through theatrical expression, whatever that gift or talent may be. Or it may just be, I mean, you're at a Christian institution. It may be like, how do you bring forth the message? How, your philosophical capacity, or whatever it may be. We all have
Hmm.
that, and I think it's important for us to do that. And when we do come to that understanding, that realization, we we bring goodness into the world. We can bring goodness into the world as a result of that. Does
Yeah.
that make any sense? I don't know what I just
Yeah.
said. I'm
Can,
just
I think, is
babbling.
an important world. Yeah, I think can is an important world word there. Because you there's constructiveness. You can construct, you can contribute to, or you
Hmm.
can destruct. You can
Exactly.
take, and when we players come into a room, if there's a player who has like this negative energy, it sucks all the energy out of the locker room. It's completely
Hmm.
noticeable. Conversely, someone comes in with this like infectious energy, I'll keep that kid on my team, whether he can shoot a jump shot or not, because that
Mm.
energy is going to feed all of us in ways that, a jump shot might not. And
Hmm.
and so there's a couple things I was picking up there. There's some images that were popping into my mind as you were speaking. One was that constructiveness. What kind of energy are you bringing? But also, are you able to listen? Are you able to match your energies with other people?
Yes.
So if you're in a symphony, if it's you're not, the trumpets need to be come down a little bit sometimes, so that the harmony of the whole can kind of come to its own
Yes.
unique majesty. And I don't know that we are focused enough now on the majesty of that sound that we make together, because we're in
Hmm.
the Instagram generation and we're all trying to be individually brilliant. And but if you've ever been on a team or in a choir, which I've been on both, there are moments when you're in the center of that sound, when your voice is part of the center of a larger sound, that it is just chillingly, it's amazing. Or on
Mm-hmm.
a court when you're doing a drill and you pass the ball and before you pass the ball that Julie's going to be there. She's going to be there because you're already there. You're connected and you're listening in kind of a deeper spiritual level that you
Mm-hmm.
know already. That's that's delicious. It's a delicious experience. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
sport allows. You can take people who speak four different languages, five different languages, put them on a soccer pitch and say, go. And they're going to be able to speak a physical language in common and
Yep.
pass the ball in common. Now, if they haven't played together, of course, it might take a while. But that constructive, nurturing, harmonious energy is possible. And through this playful mentality, through playfulness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
both of the things I mentioned are a kind of play, playing music, or you mentioned theater, which is interactive, right? There
Mm-hmm.
are monologues, but who's the monologue interacting with? But the whole audience in front, whose energy is contributing to the spirit of that performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all jazz now.
You know, yeah, I love it because
The
I think
images that you
the
brought up are really
oh
fun.
yeah, you too. Because I'm thinking of like what I was trying to get at there. Let me see, can I tease it out again? Like based on what you just said, like like on the basketball court. I think the basketball game, the one team that you're playing with, is a metaphor for the whole. And like you're saying, like in order for that team to
Mm,
function well, it can't be like Mary is on the court and it's all about Mary. Mary got to get her points. She got to get the assist. You got to get all these stats. I'm looking at Mary's stats and that's it. That's what's important. And then
right.
Broderick's over there like, no, I got to get my stats. That's what's important, and I want to make sure I look good. I want to show the world that I'm gifted, I'm talented, I'm great. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that do for the whole, though? What does that do for the team? And I think the
Right.
metaphor of a team
Right.
when we're playing and engaged in sport, yes, I want to bring my gift and talent, but I'm bringing my gift and talent in service to the whole. And then on a team, it's like I'm in service to the
Mm,
whole of a team. And then when I think about two teams playing a game, okay, the two teams are not just in service of the individual teams winning, but they're in service to the whole of the audience, the whole of this theatrical participation that's happening throughout a game. And if you can extend that out into
yeah.
the whole world, we're on team life, not just team humanity, but team life. If I'm on team life, it's important for me to
Yes.
bring my
Yeah.
gift and talents to the world in service to life and not just about me, 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 me. You're right.
Mm,
I think, it's easier to
mm-hmm.
do it in our society to focus on the individual and what I have to bring and compete with others to bring what I have to bring to the marketplace, whatever that marketplace is,
Mm-hmm.
so that everyone can look at me and find me and celebrate me. It's easy for us to do that because the way our system is set up, and it's came to be this way for, I
Right.
think, positive reasons throughout human history. But has it gone too far? It's not just an American phenomenon; it's global. Has it gone too far in our society where we feel like it's all about me being free to do whatever I want for my own personal glory? Or is it, can I just change it a little bit or think about it in a different way like I would if I was playing being a part of a team sport? Do I want to be free enough to express myself such that I can give to the whole in a way that synchronicity, or not
Mm,
that coming together that we have, we tap into something greater than ourselves. When you mentioned like two people in a room earlier, when they're doing something together, there's something that they tap into that's greater than what it is individually. And when we recognize that
mm-hmm.
potential and that power, we're like, oh, yes, I should find my gift. Or yes, I should work on my gift and bring it into the world. Yes, I can celebrate myself. but not just for the sake of myself, but for the sake of the whole, whatever it is that I'm participating in. And I think the thing I encourage is
Right.
it's like you're on team
Right.
life. Like, how do I participate in the world as a living being with agency, take responsibility for that agency to contribute to the whole with my gift and talent? I mean, that's where I'm, at least
Yeah.
today, right now, in this moment, talking about it.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah. And in a funny way, sports teaches us a strange kind of freedom that's defined by limitations, and obligations, right, to other people and even the other
mhm,
team. You have, imagine a tennis court. Now take away the net. You're not going to have a
mhm,
great time playing tennis without that central limitation.
mhm,
There is a net. You have to kind of
mm,
honor these arbitrary rules that we put in place. And yet it's those limitations and those rules that allow for the creativity of the game to evolve within them. And I think the
yeah,
same thing happens when we meet each other, right? There's a certain, I can no longer be the most important person in the room if you're in the room with me. We have to share that that title.
right.
But then that allows the limitations of that, and then now together something else is coming to be because I have to honor. There's a limitation on my own autonomy. I have to honor your life, and there's something very generative about that. Well, in the
Mhm,
Bible, Jesus said, "When two or more people
mhm,
gather in my name, I am there." Well, who am I? That there's
mhm,
this. He almost articulated that 2,000 years ago, or however many years ago that was. That generative force that comes when you allow yourself to live fully into your gifts, but not demand to be lauded or, yeah, I gotta know what I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying is that to live fully into your gifts is to allow you to participate fully
yeah,
in a wholeness that you're otherwise exempt from if you
mhm,
try to kind of hold on and contain them and to own them
mhm,
completely for your own well-being.
mhm. And we benefit from that. We benefit from when we give to the collective with our gifts and talents. We encourage others to do it. We benefit.
Mm,
We're not losing anything by
right,
doing that. And I think
right.
that's, to me, that makes life great. If you just do a thought
Yeah.
experiment, folks, like, just imagine if that's the ideal world that we lived in. Yeah, I know it's not a utopia doesn't exist other than in our own minds. But imagine that utopia, because the decisions that humans make is moving towards their utopia, even though it doesn't exist. But they're trying to reach that utopia, and I disagree with some people's utopia.
Hmm.
But just imagine this one, where we are, everybody's like, all right, team life, we're gonna do the best we can with our agency and with our special kind of agency as human beings, these capacities that we have that other animals don't have, to chart our course in a way that's very unique to what it means to be a human being. But I'm on team life. I'm going to choose to be the best version of myself. If I'm gifted with abstract thought, I'm going to maybe become a physicist and or a philosopher, and I'm going to use that gift and talent to support the whole. Imagine if everyone did that. Imagine a
Hmm.
musician did that. I'm going to be the best musician I can. So when I play music with people, or even if I'm playing by myself, I'm doing it for the whole, not just for my own self aggrandizement. If we lived in that world,
Mm-hmm.
imagine the kind of
Mm-hmm.
world that would be, where I say me, I'm interested in mathematics, or very much into abstract thinking, and I become a physicist. I don't play music. Oh, well, I get to go to a concert with this musician. I benefit from this musician playing wonderful music. Or I get to go to a
Right.
basketball or sport game and I can enjoy this. Imagine the life that we have when we
Right.
think about it in a different way. Even if we don't, even if
Yeah.
you might in your mind think a way out of and say, oh, that would never exist. I'm like, okay, you can think that all you want, but what are we working towards? And thinking about, oh, if I do that, I not only do I benefit from your gift, you benefit from my gift, and we both benefit in a way that transcends anything that the individual could ever conceive of or think about. Um, I just think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That to me makes life worth living. You can, make life worth living.
Yeah. And it's a good
Yeah.
curative for the scarcity mindset that I think we're living in now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if scarcity mindset means I have to take mine, even if it means you don't have any, that what you just described is the opposite of that. It's like I'm going to use my gifts to fill the room, and then offer them up, and then receive in return.
So much.
It's a lovely vision that you describe.
Mm-hmm. I think folks, as you hear this, it's the reason why I want to qualify. Like, yeah, think and imagine you're a utopia, but we all have an ideal that we're all pursuing, even if we never reach
Yeah.
the pureness of that ideal, but we all are. And I think, don't let anybody tell you like, oh, that's utopian, that's not going to ever happen. Like, okay, but it's not going to stop me from pursuing it. My thing is why I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing this
Yeah.
podcast because I'm trying to encourage more goodness in the world. And yes, I can be discouraged because I'm like, oh, I don't have a whole lot of listeners. Well, a lot of it is because I refuse to do all the marketing stuff on social media that people typically do. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop doing it, because of that. I want to continue to do it. I'm doing it for the sake of
Right.
something greater than myself because I have this idealistic view, a potential. I have this utopia that I've set out there and like, okay, now I believe that the world can be good. Even if I can read the news and be like, the
Yeah.
world is terrible.
Yeah.
But what keeps me going is that I'm going to shoot for the utopia, knowing that in my lifetime, I will never reach it. My utopia, I will never see in my
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah.
But
And
that doesn't
utopias are
mean I
not
don't
meant to be
stop.
reached.
No, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, somebody too.
And that's
If
and
we
that's where you
survive,
want. As soon as something,
no, go for it.
I think. Oh, sorry, I talked over
No,
you there. I
no,
apologize.
no, it's all good.
Um, as soon as something becomes too codified, too solid, we say this is the way it is. Let's put it down. Oh, that's when it starts to kind of crumble. The
Right?
playfulness aspect allows it to keep growing and keep living through. And you asked me about utopia earlier, and I think what would it look like? It would look like a world safe for play.
Yep.
If you just pretend it's a neighborhood, not a whole world, but a neighborhood safe to play, what would you already have to have in place? Those people and kids would have to be well fed. They would have to have a safe place to sleep and come home to. There would have to be a place to play and designated,
Mm-hmm.
and it would it would facilitate a whole bunch of positive changes in a community
Exactly.
if enabling people, not just kids, we got to play too,
Right.
to play would be the center of that, in all the
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of ways. Play piano, play foosball, play pickleball, for goodness sakes.
Mm-hmm.
I know I know that's a debate in some neighborhoods, but
I know, right? The loud
and then
bow.
I think, uh, well, and I want to come back to that notion of competition too, because I for a long time I thought competition was a bad. I'm a competitive person. I'm like, I got to stop being so competitive, and I realized after reading Phil Jackson's book, Sacred Hoops, that competition wasn't bad. It was the way I was approaching it was
Mm-hmm.
caustic, was tearing me down, because I was always competing against. I was competing against someone else. I wanted to beat him. There was this warlike domination instinct that was going on. But if I compete with them, and
Mm-hmm.
without knowing I'm going to play against Santa Clara, I'm not gonna see my own potential as a player or a team, because I've got nothing to kind of strive against and strive with, I guess, and measure myself. And so, even that, in a playful world where play is centered, then you can compete with and together discover something more than either team would have been able to accomplish alone. I think of the
Mm-hmm.
best rivalries in sports and how exciting and interesting they are, and how the world of sport would be much poorer without those competitions, because they're
Mm-hmm.
creating something that we can all play with, fans and
Mm-hmm.
other players as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I again, that goes back to the changing the language from I have to I wonder, and
Mm-hmm.
from playing against to playing with. The changes that we're talking about are not that big. They're not that
Mm-mm.
scary after all. They're a shift in our frame, a shift in the mindset that's actually much easier and quicker than we think, and
Mm-hmm.
joyful and fun. And if
Mm-hmm.
we can get away from this notion that, oh, we have to change everything, like, no, let's just change a word. Let's go from compete against to compete with. Let's go from
Mm-hmm.
I have to I wonder if, and
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. I think we'd be
Mm-hmm.
pleasantly surprised. I have been pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it all. And I think, um, yeah, you touched on all these things I was just going to ask you about, but now you already said it. So I'll just say, offer a little
Oh,
bit. I love it. This idea of play and what's the importance of play, and this notion that competition within cooperation, this collaborative experience where there's cooperation
yeah.
and competition, how amazing that is. You're right. These
Mm-hmm.
rivalries that we have, they can be great. And it can be great if we have this attitude of with versus against. That's amazing because, let's have this healthy game, this healthy competition that we're having with this other person or other group or team. And the idea is that we're doing this together to create something wonderful and beautiful together. And that knowing that I quote unquote might lose in a small way, but I'm going to win in a bigger way. Even if I lose, say, if I'm playing a game, basketball game, you know, um, and my team loses, yet the experience of playing that game, the competition that I gave the other team was such that the invigoration, the spiritual experience you talked about earlier, the flow state that I experienced and my team experienced, but it was such an amazing game. It was so close and they won by the last shot. Damn, I wish we would have won, but that was great. That was so amazing. The whole experience, the crowd was in it, the whole country is talking about it. It was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing experience. That was great. And I lost. But at the same time, I won.
Yeah.
I won something so much greater than the
Yeah.
actual small idea of winning that game, which
Right.
everyone is going to forget. But that experience, the rich
Right.
experience that I had,
Right.
all of that stuff was so much more transformative that I'm not even aware of. I'm not even sensitive to the
Yeah.
transformation that just took place, not only in my life, but in the life of all of us who participated in it, preparing for it, the coaches, the teams, the sport, the fans, everything that was brought into that was such a wonderful experience based on the things that you just said, because we allowed
Yeah.
ourselves to play, to explore possibilities. We allow
Yeah.
ourselves to have an attitude of wonder. I wonder if that attitude, those attitudes, those things that you're saying, it can be so powerful, just by shifting the way we're approaching it. And it wouldn't make the games boring just because people are saying that
Yeah.
they're competing with versus against. No, actually, it'd be great because the athletes, for instance, in this analogy, they're not as stressed. They're going to have stress. Stresses can be
Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah.
but they're not as stressed and worried about, oh, what if we lose? Like, you're going to win no matter
Yeah.
what. You're
There's a
going
lot
to win.
when you add money into that
Oh
professional
yeah,
athletes
man.
deal with. It's another layer. But when you
Mm-hmm.
watch professional athletes, the respect that they have for each other,
Mm-hmm.
football and basketball, they know what the other guy went through to get to that point, to get to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
They know the effort, the sacrifice. Doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're playing at that high level, you've made some sacrifices to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing, while you were speaking about that gym, I was hearing it. I was like there in my imagination, and the irrational loss of perspective. Whatever's going on outside that stadium, and it can be something that deserves our attention for a moment, for a sacred moment. We are
Mm-hmm.
together in observation of of a new creation, this game that these two teams are creating before our eyes. It feels like a cathedral to me. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
something sacred is going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens all across the world, and it happens in a variety of different sports. Cricket in India, my husband loves cricket, so cricket's always on the on the television. And whatever it is that's bringing us together across lines of difference, across religious
Mm-hmm.
difference, across national differences, there's something going on there that really positive that I think we can harness. I think
Mm-hmm.
we should harness that kind of positive collective energy, even though we all know it can get ugly. I always wanted to
Oh
kick
yeah.
ass when I was on the court. There's no question, right? But that loss of perspective is part of the pleasure as well. And then when you come out, you have to realize it was a game. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's one of the things where we've been losing. We've been losing that pleasure of going into that heightened situation of the game or the performance and coming out of, and how better we see the world after we've lost perspective for those few minutes and come back out and have a better capacity to understand, oh, this is what's going on, because by contrast, you get a better better notion of what's important. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that. I don't know if I know what I'm saying on that, so i'll uh,
No,
I'll hand
I
it off to
love
you,
it.
see what you do with it.
No, no, I love it. As you were saying that, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, what is the issue here that
Hmm.
inhibits? I don't want to say inhibits, that limits this experience that we're talking about. Because I think artists are like, oh, they're talking about sport. I'm like, no, it translates to life, everything. Because we were talking about
Hmm.
ritual, and creating a space for ritual.
Yeah.
And I think it's how we reward things in the ritual, what we value most. And I think if we didn't value the
Hmm.
person or the team that won so much, and we're fighting, especially when we've been conditioned to fight for social status, or social capital. And if we change the way we're thinking about it, and I do feel like if like what you said earlier about just changing certain words, by changing those certain words, we can change how we celebrate the results of a ritual
Hmm.
experience. And it's like, well, we had this ritual experience. We played this game together, and we fought hard. And yes, the person who gets the win, they won the game, and they get to move on to the next stage. You just finished with the was it the final the NCAA tournament. Yeah, someone won.
Yeah.
Somebody ended up winning. UCLA in the women's, they won. They beat South Carolina, and I was bummed. But anyway, UCLA
That was a good
won.
game.
Okay, and they won the game. Great, they're being celebrated. But how far do we give that celebration? How far do we celebrate
Hmm.
South Carolina's loss and UCLA's win in this example? And my point is, it's just that that's a question to think about, because, like you said, South Carolina got there, and in order to play at that level, to get to the place that they got to play in that final game, that championship game, that was a lot that both teams put into that. Can we just celebrate everybody? Yes, while celebrating the team that won, but how far along do we go in that? And I think
Yeah.
that could change, because when you're an athlete, as a basketball player, you want to win because we've been conditioned that winning that's the peak. If you can win, that's it. You've conquered the world. Do you know you're not going to conquer the world just by winning? Because the person on the other team, they
Hmm.
may have lost, and they've conquered something about themselves that allows them to gain
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
insight into the nature of their being. Maybe they had a transformative experience. It sucks that they lost, but they had an experience that transformed their lives in a way that put them into a different
Yeah.
stratosphere based on where they were prior
Yeah.
to, I don't know, the extended experience. And I think if we can celebrate all of that, Because here, and there's, oh, that's far fetched. I'm like, no, I play a game. Capoeira is this way. In the game of capoeira,
Yeah,
subtly
tell
there are
me.
winners and losers, but in actuality, it isn't. We have this circle where we play this game. We're singing this music, and people come in and they play the game. People are playing at all kinds of different levels. Of course, there is somebody that I play the game with that's quote unquote better than me. They're going to be able to do things to me in that circle that I just can't, because they just have the greater athleticism. They've put more hours in. They started when they were young kids. But at the end of that game, we shake hands before the game, at least the way that we play, and we shake hands after the game.
Mm.
And it's over. No one is keeping points. There's no scoreboard. We had an intense experience. I know that, like, yeah, I probably got a little handle. I could have did better, but I learned something. I had fun. I was challenged. And I know that this person is better than me. They probably will always be better than me because they started when they were 8 years old and they can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I started when I was 30. It's just not even, it's just a different stratosphere. But we had this amazing competitive exploratory experience together where I learned, I grew, I challenged them in some capacity. Maybe the challenge that I offered them was that, you know what, I'm not going to beat this guy up. Maybe that's their challenge. How do I make something beautiful together with this art form? And I think that for me,
Mm.
it's a real sport that I play, game that I play, that ritual that I play, participate in, that's highly athletic, that is also cooperative in a large way, that I can walk away knowing that, yeah, I may not be the greatest capoeira player, at least a physical player in the world, but I can play well enough to have a transformative experience. That when I come into that ritual space to
Yes.
play this game, and I think you can do this in any sport, but when I come into this ritual space to play this game, I'm bringing in all of my challenges and sufferings, and I'm going to transmute that energy because I'm going to be so present. I'm going to push my body. I'm going to be really
Yeah.
engaged with what's happening. I'm present. I'm entering that flow like state. And then in that process, I can transform energy. I can transform the suffering, my depression, my anxiety in that moment, in those moments. And then when that game is over, when this ritual is done, we all stop, the music stops, and we're like, whoa, man, that was an amazing experience. That was just so awesome. And it keeps us coming back to it. And I'm like, this is a real life something that
Right.
is happening,
Right.
that where we can have that experience. So folks, this is not just far fetched. I think it doesn't have to be capoeira. I think it happens when people play pickup basketball games. Yeah, they're competing with each other, but they're not
Oh
worried
yeah.
about like who's going to win or what. They're playing, playing with each other. And I think you can create a competitive atmosphere to get the benefits of competitive atmosphere in a cooperative sense where we celebrate everybody. Yes, we acknowledge the winners. We acknowledge people who are more talented and gifted in particular ways. It's nothing wrong with doing that. And I think that's important to do that because I want to celebrate. I love watching a great athlete who's better than me. I'm like, that's great. That's fine. I don't need to diminish myself. I don't need to be in competition with them
Right.
in that particular way because I can't be them. But I can compete in interacting with them,
Right.
and we meet each other in a place where we can create something beautiful together through the ritual experience. And I think that's what happens when you're playing in
And
a basketball
something,
game. That's great. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and something that never existed before. It's brand new that the
exactly.
two of you made that never has existed before. And the other thing were speaking so beautifully of this notion of presence. How often
Mm-hmm.
now are we completely and totally present in our bodies and minds and spirits in one location, except in
Mm-hmm.
competition and maybe in conversation as we are right now? And it's an opportunity to be moved. I think that's why art and athletics kind of equally have equal pull on me because they move me. I want,
Mm-hmm.
and when I read a book and I'm deeply moved, I want nothing more than to move someone else in a way, to give that gift
Mm-hmm.
of back that I was
Mm-hmm.
given. When I think of presence, I think of somebody on the free throw line at the end of a game, at the start of a game, whenever, it doesn't matter. They're at the free throw line and they have to be completely, totally present. If they're thinking about the shot before, if they're thinking about what they're having for dinner, if they're not present. That so much depends upon your ability to be completely present in sport, whether it's a free kick or a penalty kick or a free throw or capoeira. And I'm going to have to come watch, Broderick. I want to watch you. I want to watch this. This is completely fascinating to me. I want to see this happen. So let
It's
me know.
magical.
Yeah. And why do we come back, right? My 13U team just got their butts kicked last week. I mean, we got banged. And we had a great week in practice because we want to go back and we want to keep playing. So
See?
there's something very healthy about that. It's not a war. It's not. We use the language of war wrongly with sport because I think the measure of a good, healthy game is that when it's over, you want to play again. That's when you know
Right?
it's a healthy experience, a healthy game. Whatever the outcome, even if you're not happy with the outcome or blaming the refs,
Ex-
which happens.
and I think, yeah, and I think it's important, after we near the end of this, these ideas, these concepts, they extend out into everything. That's why I brought this idea of team life. We can think
They
about it as
do.
team human. If team life is too much for people, we'll just go team human.
Yeah.
And if we think about it,
Yeah, and
we
I think there's a
think
theology of play involved in our lives
exactly,
that we can live
exactly.
into that theology of play, and it doesn't mean it's just athletes.
No,
A playful approach to
mm,
everything
to
demands devotion,
everything.
demands kind of coordination, and demands interaction. Anyway, that's my
Exactly.
dream.
Me too. Me too. And I think, how do I extend this concept of play? I think, can you quickly, define, well, how do you define play? I have my way of defining it because I know we've been talking about play and so people can understand because I think some people don't like, what do you mean by playing? They just think just playing a
Yeah.
game. I'm like, no, no, no.
Uh,
How can everybody
oh
play?
gosh, yeah. So, I mean, there's philosophers. Randolph Fiesel, right, has written books on this. Hugo Ronner has written theologies.
Hmm.
People disagree, in short, about what play is and what games are. But I think it's more of a state of mind, playfulness, how you enter
Hmm.
into an endeavor, than it is easily defined.
Hmm.
When they say, well, what is a sport? Well, so sport has a certain, take the tennis court, it's this long by this wide with a net in the middle. There's certain clear rules within which the game is played. But playfulness, you can go compete in tennis, but not have any fun doing it and not be
Hmm.
playful. And, there wouldn't be. So playfulness is a state of being, a cultivation of, you cultivate a mindset, a way of entering into an endeavor or a relationship that predetermines that says you're going in with wonder. I guess just is one thing. And when you play, you don't know the outcome, right?
Hmm.
You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the score is. We don't know where this conversation is going. So one essential quality of play in my mind is this a bit of uncertainty and a little bit of risk because there's that uncertainty.
Hmm.
And that if we can live into that rather than trying to prescribe it and dictate it is a good, beautiful step forward and
Hmm.
fun
Hmm.
and 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 frightening, because the other thing about play, which is the same thing when you look at fiction, is that there's always something at stake.
Hmm.
There's always something at stake. It doesn't have to matter. It doesn't have to matter who wins this game, but there's something at stake that adds a certain edge, a certain energy to that frame of mind. So
Hmm.
I think it's going to take a long longer to figure out what exactly it is. But I think it's a frame of
No.
mind. And I do think that there are people who define it much, much better than I do. And I can get you those people
Mm.
on a plate
No, this
in
is
a
great. I
bibliography.
love it. Yeah, no, I love how you talked about it. I talk about it in a very similar way. It's a mentality, it's a attitude towards whatever endeavor that you're participating in, and you have this exploratory mind, and you know that there's uncertainty and there's risk involved,
Yeah,
but you have this, like a kid, this mind of like, oh, I'm just exploring, I'm just open to what's possible, and ooh, there's danger, but then it's also so much fun at the same time, and being really present and locked into what you're exploring, and in this realm of
right.
uncertainty, that we're exploring what's possible within those realms of uncertainty, and we created boundaries. Like in this conversation, the boundary is like, okay, we're going to talk about, for this hour, we're going to talk about the potential for what's good and what makes life worth living, and let's play, let's explore what's
Let's
possible.
play.
What's the attitude? I'm open. I don't know. Do Mary have ideas better than me? Sure. I'm sure. In some way, I'm sure that. Do I have some ideas, quote unquote, whatever the hell that means, better anyway? Better than you in certain ways? Sure. We're not in competition. We're just having this playful
Right.
exploratory conversation. And I think that can extend into life. What if we had that attitude
Mm,
towards life? Play with that idea, audience. What if
yeah.
we had that kind of attitude? What would that do for us? Would it make everything happy go lucky all the time? No, it won't. Will you still have moments of depression and anxiety and all that? Absolutely. That's what it means to be a human being. But it's what you do with those moments of depression and anxiety and stress and joy and happiness and fun. Can you have fun? Can you be playful with your moments when you're depressed? I think you can. And I think that you can, because you can look at the bigger picture. You can step beyond, like, okay, I'm feeling down because of this and that, blah, blah, blah. What can I learn from it? How can I explore this and gain some insight? Maybe I need a therapist. I don't know. Maybe I need to just go on a basketball court and just dribble and play and shoot by myself. I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to just go play a pickup game. It does. My point is that we have all of these things that are going on inside of us. And if we approach life in a playful way and with an openness to the outcome, because we have no idea what the outcome is going to be, but with this openness,
Mm,
let's see what happens. And the journey can be quite fun. And anybody who's played sports and you enjoyed the sport that you were playing, especially you played at a college level, I mean, it's so much work. It ain't all fun. There's a lot of work that goes into that.
hmm.
And you can
Yeah.
still have fun. It can still be quite an enjoyable experience to play the game and to be involved in the game. And I think those are lessons for life. I feel like with that attitude towards life, approaching life with wonder, with curiosity, with playfulness, being open to
Hmm.
transformative experience. And I'm trying to bring up all these things that you brought up, really nurturing and supporting our gifts and talents and bringing that gift and talent to the world, not just for ourselves, but for the collective whole. I think that makes life worth living to me personally. That's what keeps me going. That having that kind of attitude, because I have moments when I'm down, there are moments when I'm like questioning things, especially at 50 or I'm at this interesting phase of my life where I'm questioning a lot of things I've done. Like, why did I do that? Like, I have moments where I feel like, oh, I've overcome that. I'm done with that. I feel like, yeah. And then it comes back up again. And I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
should I have had kids? Why didn't I have kids? What's going on? As an example, just all of these examples of like, what if I would
Hmm.
have just became a professor, versus doing what I'm doing now? What if whatever, all these things that pop into my mind, I'm going to play with them. I'm going to approach them with an attitude of playfulness and be open to what's going to happen. Be open to the outcome, whatever the outcome may be. And I think that makes a beautiful life. It makes a beautiful life with all its challenges, with all the pain, and we can still have a beautiful, wonderful life that's worth living. Um,
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for this
Oh,
time as well.
no, thank you. I'm just trying to feed off all the stuff that you said. I think that there's so much in this conversation that we didn't even get to unpack. But all of these things that you brought up, um, life can be a ritual, folks. I think it is, but we can approach it as a ritual. I think what you're saying is you said something very deep about changing just a few words and how we look at our experience can be quite helpful in transforming our approach to the way we live our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're becoming aware of those beliefs that hold you captive and see if they're serving you. And if they're
Mm-hmm.
not, look around and discover what else might be of service to you and to the world that would be a better game to play than the one you think you needed you had to for all of these years.
Exactly. We can choose within the greater game, we can choose our own mini games and how we play those games. And we get to carry that
Yeah.
forward to through the next generation. And I think you're doing that at St. Mary's and the work that you're doing, the books you're writing. I haven't read one yet, but I look forward to reading it. Um, I can't wait to do that. And yeah, especially after this conversation, I'm like, okay, I got to read this sister's work. I want to see.
They're very
I
different.
want
They're,
to.
one day I'm
With
going to write about sports. I haven't actually done it yet, but I will.
yeah, but if I'm assuming all of these thoughts and these ideas are feeding, has fed that literature that you've written. Um, so I would look
In
forward
strange
to
ways, yeah. No, yeah.
yeah. So any final thoughts that you have before we sign off here?
No, to thank you for this time and this opportunity to talk with and through some of these ideas. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And I am going to come watch you or we do capoeira one of these times. So if I show up, I'll wave and let you be. But
No, yeah, I'd invite you to when I host what we call a Honda, the ritual where we play the game, and you get to see the whole community and see people
I'd
involved. It's
love
so
it.
amazing. It's so awesome. Yeah, this has
Yeah.
been lovely for me as well. Just I want there's so much more to unpack. I can just speak with you for hours, I think, about these things, these themes, and just back and forth. You see, audience, again, we're not debating, we're just having a playful discussion.
Hmm.
And I hope that you vicariously gain something from it, even if you screaming at us and saying that I disagree with you too, and that's fine too. That's great. And I think that's all important. It's all valuable, and hopefully you can go out and continue this discussion. We will in our own ways. I know I will, and I'm assuming Mary will in her own way. And I hope that you all, the audience, continue to go out and continue having this conversation, this exploratory, playful conversation with others, um, and to expand our understanding as agents in the world about what it means to live well, to live good. And maybe we can do something about making the world a better place as a result. Well, thank you, Mary. I look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Yes, let's do it. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I hope this conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own views of the good life. If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more inspiring and thought-provoking conversations, please follow, write a review, and rate us on your favorite podcast app. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated.